Ah yes, sequence space ambient. This can be one of the most difficult subgenres of ambient to produce in because it really takes a lot to make it feel authentic and to make it feel right. Now luckily, I produced several albums in this style, so I have some secrets to share with you. And in this video, I'm gonna go over what those secrets are so you guys can use these techniques in your own productions. We're gonna reverse engineer this track and we're gonna talk about a lot of different things pertaining to sequence space ambient, like proper filtering, proper modulation, proper effects, and then proper layering. And hopefully by the end of this video, you guys are gonna see exactly how to create this style so you guys can create sequence space ambient on your own. Anyway, that's the game plan. Thanks for being here, and let's go ahead and get started. This video is brought to you by the Signs of Life Patreon. Discover tutorials for all skill levels, as well as full track walkthroughs and track breakdowns, over 100 preset and sample packs, and the Signs Circle Group for track feedback and support, and I also offer personalized one-on-one ambient coaching. Well, what are you waiting for? Sign up today and join us. The link is down below in the description. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, first things first, I'm gonna show you how I created this first patch in this sequence. And the reason for this is simple. We all don't have the same synthesizer. Some of you may or may not have Serum 2, some of you use Pigment, some other you use Vital, and you can adapt these techniques to anything that you do have. Maybe you use modular, maybe you use hardware. It's up to you, right? The point of this video is to show you guys the techniques behind the sound so you can adapt it to any other synthesizers of your choice. All right, so let's go ahead here. Now, the whole idea for this video came when I was listening to my friend Martin's new album, Dyson Sphere Beta. Now, this is not going to be a recreation. I'm never doing that again. And you know, the whole point of it was because I was learning by listening. If you want to learn Martin's style, you can go ask Martin. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out here. This is the first patch that I created. It's just an initialized Serum 2 patch, right? But you can see I have a nice long 8-bar LFO here on the cutoff. And you can see the main sawtooth is being modulated by the sine fold warp mode. That's the closest to wave folding that you can do in Serum 2. And it's using a random here, random sample and hold. So the timbre kind of changes over time, and this is very important, is that when you're creating sequence space ambient, you're not having the same timbre all the way through, right? Sequences are fading in and out, which you'll soon see in the chart. They're modulating in different directions to kind of create this whole, you know, almost like a sequence in 3 dimensions, right? So you can see here I've also got velocity, and velocity is modulating the cutoff, and it's also modulating the FM amount from oscillator B. And oscillator B here is turned all the way down, all right? So this is through 0 FM, which I talked about on my modular channel. Through 0 is when FM crosses the 0 point, which results in a much smoother sounding FM, all right? So that's really cool. So you can see here, just a very quick attack here. Second envelope is modulating the cutoff, and that's pretty much all there is to it, all right? I've got a chart plan. Let's go ahead and take a look at the chart. So the first point that I have for you today is to create the primary motif, all right? Create one intentional sequence that feels like the identity of the track, even if it's only 4 to 8 notes, right? You can hear that just from the modulation, this really does have a lot of character, all right? Keep the sound simple at first and then use slow modulation, which I just showed you, to spotlight characteristics that you want later, like filter cutoff. You could do wavetable position, like I did, sine fold amount, FM amount fold, resonance, timbre, or stereo width. So these are all really important qualities of sequence space ambient, all right? So that's the first sequence, and you know, you could let this ride, but we're gonna go a lot further, but this is just where it starts, okay? Try to use modulation to your advantage, try to use velocity to your advantage. Again, I just programmed this in, the sequence in by hand. However, you can see that I've done some randomized velocity down here on the bottom, right? So there's a lot you can do with just the basics. I literally penciled this in. I did not use step pick or anything, all right? It's a very simple sequence. Notice it's in the lower register, so I'm playing an F minor, 81 beats per minute, and this is very low down on the octave scale. Okay, cool. So we are rolling here. Now what we're gonna do is introduce a second sequence, okay? And for the second sequence, I have another instance of pigments here, okay? And you can see I'm using step pick here. However, this is another very simple sequence. There's really nothing to this. What I do have is a distortion. That's a wave folding distortion, again, on a very slow LFO here. Very slow. This is a technique that I use in modular a lot, all right? So let's listen to what happens when we introduce this second sequence. Do you hear that? So this is where I really got inspired by Martin's music. I was like, oh, okay, he's got the steady sequence and then the other sequence that kind of snaps out, and that's that velocity hit. It's also the FM amount. It could be anything, right? But it's those two sequences together that fade in and out of one another, all right? Notice again the chart, sequence A and sequence B. Sometimes they interlock, sometimes they drift apart, okay? And this is what creates almost like call and response, because one sequence is doing the call and the other one is doing the response, all right? And you combine that with proper filtering and slow intentional modulation, now we're getting somewhere, okay? So this is the steady pulse sequence, I call it, okay? Introduce a simpler, steadier pattern at a different rhythmic density. Like consistent 16th notes or something, and a repeating gate pattern that creates forward motion without stealing the attention, okay? So you can see I created this with step pick here. It's super simple. I mean, it doesn't get much more simpler than that, right? But this works. I mean, this is the kind of thing that would work in sequence-based ambient, because you're just creating that second sequence. And if you use enough modulation, then those two are gonna sound like they cross over together. I said this in another video, but you know, sometimes I'll create a 16th note sequence and the other one would be an 8th notes. And by creating the different time divisions, that's what creates those interlocking rhythms, okay? Cool. All right, so we got two now. All right, now let's introduce this bass, because the bass is like the foundation or the gravity, okay? So let's go ahead and introduce the bass here. Very simple. This is a preset called Pillar of Divinity from Ancient Technology 4. Right? I just drew these notes in by hand. Super simple. Now in Martin's music last night, he was, he's doing this like really low sequence. I avoided that in this tutorial so I could show you how you could lay the foundation. So you can add a bass or a low mid anchor that's either sequence or rhythmically implied, focused more on stability rather than complexity. Okay, that's a huge point. So when we look at our, our chart here, we have the interlocking sequences, then it's about frequency and depth, right? Because you always have to have the bass. You have to have the bass. It's super important. Because once you put the bass in, it's time to do what I call the frequency check, all right? You gotta do the frequency check. And the frequency check is where you have a span on your master fader, all right? So the span here, you can see, is showing us the tail of the tape, all right? We've got a nice deep bass down here. You can see that. We've got all this mid-range and then this higher frequency. Now see how I've offset the two sequences? Because they're not exactly playing at the same octave range. This is key, because if everything was condensed between, say, 600 hertz and like 2K, you'd have a problem, because there would be no balance, right? Everything would be focused in one particular area. However, with that higher sequence that kind of touches that high frequency, that's how you get that feeling of clarity and perspective. There's no mistake here, right? And that's another thing that really strikes me about Martin's music. Again, this is not a tutorial about how to make that style. However, I mean, you can adapt this to anything that you want, but the thing that strikes me most is the clarity, right? The way that each sound, it's not like he's got, 7 to 8 to 10 to 12, 15 tracks. It's just very simple. It only takes 3. And the whole frequency spectrum is already filled out, okay? I like it. Okay, so now let's add sequence B. This is gonna be our third sequence, and this is the kind of sequence where you really wanna focus on fading things in and out, okay? So let's go ahead and add this sequence here. Again, this is coming from Serum 2. This is a patch from Ancient Technology 2 called Periphery. A little homage to my buddy, Peter from Echo Season. And one thing that I did to change this patch was add some white noise here, okay? Because you can hear, let me go ahead and solo this. This is almost like a bass sequence. But when you have a bass sequence that has a little bit of white noise, that goes a super long way, okay? And this is something you'll often hear in really good sequence-based ambient. My partner Don does this a lot, where he's got like a low sound, but it still has that white noise element to it. Listen to that. That's fantastic. So now with all of these combined, you can hear like we're rolling, all right? Because that high frequency comes in, plus the sequence A, right? So this is the part I call introducing the interlocking sequence, the call and response, the conversation, okay? Add a final sequence designed to weave around the motif, either by filling in rhythmic gaps or answering melodic phrases, or living in a different octave or register, okay? So this is how you interlock those sequences. Again, you can visually see it here on the canvas. You can visually see it. Some of the sequences are slower, some of them are faster. But then when you combine that with the proper modulation, that's the business, okay? Cool. So from here, what I would do is even go deeper on the modulation. I would say, all right, well, we got this. Let's see how far this LFO can go, okay? Let's maybe lower this down a little bit. I love that. Hanging quite a bit, so let's lower that velocity down a little bit. All right. This track doesn't even have a pad. Like, I didn't even put a pad in here, so maybe we should. Maybe we should add just a little bit of atmosphere. All right, let's go ahead and do that. Why not? Let's go ahead and add pigments here. And I'm just gonna pull up a preset. Let's do one from Chromatic 4. Let's choose the opening mantra. This almost didn't make the cut. I'm so glad that it did make the cut. I'll go ahead and turn off the reverb and delay here and use my own. Now again, very subtle pad here. Yes. Beautiful. So you hear that pad just kind of sits down there, okay? It's not overstated. I'm not trying to grab attention from the other sequences that are interlocking, right? So you might even want to lower the filtering down a little bit more just to emphasize that. Let's hear it solo. Very steady opening mantra pad. I love it. I love it. Oh yeah, so good, so good. Let's go ahead and do a couple chord changes here. I'll make a MIDI clip. I'm holding down this minor chord, okay? Let's do a higher note right here. A flat. Carry some of these notes forward. that's all it takes. That's the opening mantra. Perfect. So again, very subtle sequences. Let's look at our chart one more time. This is the shallow and deep portion, right? Frequency spectrum awareness, because if the pad was too loud, it would start to step on the toes of the other sequences that are already there. And if we didn't have things modulating, if they were just all on all the time, there would be no call and response. You see? Okay. Let's take one more check at our frequency spectrum here just to make sure that pad isn't running over anything. Oh yeah. Very nice. Very nice. Slow, subtle, and intentional. I love it. Fantastic. All right, one final touch here in my own music and some of the Synphaera records, especially, you know, there or even some of the Ascendant albums, you'll often hear a lead sound, okay? A lead is what I've described in the past as being a sound that is just a little bit shorter of an attack than a pad, right? So let's choose one from Chromatic 4. Again, we'll choose Solar Nebula here. I'm gonna use my own reverb and delay. There's no particular reason for that. I just like the sound of my own reverb and delay. You can get by with the Pigments reverb as well. And this will be our sort of floating sequence to kind of send us off into outer space here. Oh yeah. Oh yes. Oh yeah. So this is something that I might open the track up with, right? Just something very slow, very subtle, but it kind of complements the pad a little bit. Let's look at our span here. Oh yeah. Beautiful. So this is sequence space ambient, guys. This is really the business, all right? Most of you have Stepic at this point. Most of you have at least Vital, maybe Pigments, maybe Serum 2, maybe you're using hardware. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you use the same DAW as me, it doesn't matter if you use the same gear as I do. The secret to sequence space ambient is all about intention. How are you approaching the music? What kind of feeling do you have inside? What kind of emotions are you bringing to the table? Are you really about what you say you're about? Because if you are, this is the kind of thing that can happen, okay? Take one more look at our chart. I've showed you filtering, I've showed you slow modulation, I've showed you multiple sequences that are interlocking. The call and response with just the velocity alone. It doesn't have to be a mystery. We've done this slow, the shallow to the deep end, these different washing textures in the background, and of course, what would be a Signs of Life tutorial without frequency spectrum awareness? Hopefully this was useful for you guys. I really do want you guys to be able to create this kind of music on your own. That's the whole point of all these videos. So, yeah. This has been a lot of fun. Oh my goodness, I'm gonna save this track for sure. Listen, if you guys want help with this style of music, please feel free to reach out. I'll list my services down below. I offer one-on-one ambient coaching. I have a wonderful mentorship program, which has worked for several people already. And it's not just for advanced producers. I want to make that abundantly clear. If you're a total beginner, I can walk you through this style and so much more in the mentorship program. Check it out. The links are down below in the description, as well as my Patreon community. Tons of presets on there and so many tutorials that are not found on this channel. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your time, energy, and presence here on this platform. I wish you the best of luck. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next Signs of Life video. In the meantime, take good care, and as always, keep your heads in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. I am Chris from Signs of Life. I'll see you guys in the next video.